So imagine you walking into your office, you're turning on your laptop, and there is an email from your boss. And the email says pretty much, or has booked in an appointment to see your boss in 2 hours, and you get a little nervous, not quite sure what's going on. And you're walking into your boss's office, and he or she sits you down and says, look, you have been incredible, you have performed well, and I would like to promote you to the next upcoming team leader position. There has been a redundancy. You're going to step in as the next team leader, and I'm really proud of you and looking forward to working with you a little bit more. You get excited, you're walking out of the office, you sit down on your desk and you think, oh, that sounds great, but I have no idea how to manage people, how to become a people manager, and how to master this. So you get up to your good friend around the corner who has been leading teams for many, many years, and it's your confidence. And you ask him to say, look, I have been promoted and I'm going to lead this team, but I don't know how to manage people the way you can. Can you explain it to me? And he says to you, yes, let's sit down, let's do this. So let's get into this today and let's think about of how you are able to master the effectivity and the activity, so to speak, of how to manage people most effectively. The problem is that most companies and most leaders within a company, they believe and think binary, meaning that they believe that if somebody is a good performer in a team, that this person simultaneously as well is able to help others to become great performers. And that is just simply not true. And I've seen my fair share of this. Just because somebody is great at doing calls and is performing well at their activity, their work, it simply does not mean that this person also is able to convey and teach others to do the same. And that is a mistake many companies and many leaders do. You may be great, or your team member may be amazing to doing sales calls very effectively, or you're great in communicating as a customer service representative or as a manager to your team or to customers, but that does not mean that you are able to teach others. In fact, that's just because you are able to speak a third language or a second language, it doesn't mean that you can teach somebody else to do the same. And that is exactly what's happening in a lot of companies, and that's a mistake. And in the process, the person that has been promoted gets stressed and is overwhelmed and doesn't know how to manage the situation. And then the senior executive board and management team looks at the person and says, look, we probably have made a wrong decision here, and we're pulling the person again back from his responsibilities as a team leader or as a manager. Now, I've seen that in my own life. I've been in the exact situation when I started just after somebody who has gotten promoted as a team leader, managing 15 learning and development managers, and this person simply was not able to manage the workload, was not able to emotionally, being able to manage the team and the responsibilities. And because of this, this person has made mistakes and eventually got pulled and demoted from his responsibilities. And I was put in his place to manage his team. And that was an interesting situation that has happened in my life and that I want to use as a case study here, that has worked very well for me as somebody who has been, from that point forth, being able to take the team and manage the team incredibly well. In fact, we had 5 different teams responsible to helping people to transition into new careers. And my team out of 5 has by far at all times over 2 years outperformed all 4 teams. And the question is why? And that is exactly what I want to talk with you right now about, to understand and to clarify the point about how are you able to become a master people manager. So let's get into that right now. So let me introduce this video right now to you, which will consist of 3 main pillars. Let me introduce the first pillar right now to you. So within pillar number 1, the 3-step performance equation, we also will talk about the definition of performance as it relates to your work environment. And we're going to talk about the 3 levels, so to speak, which allows you or allows anyone really to succeed which is all about the clarity of the task or end step. The second one is around the skill, being clear about the skill and ability of yourself and other people. And the third one is the passion and interest you have for the work you do. So the second pillar, number 2, is all about the 4 ways into the hearts of others. And what that means is that we really want to start to understand other people. We want to understand what makes them tick. What are their intrinsic motivators? So it's all about right now to focusing on the other person, where before in pillar 1, we focus on us to become aware about who we are. Now it's time to focus on the others. And there are usually 2 types of people: the high performers, or the so-called hypos, and the ones that don't perform well, with whom, so to speak, we need to tease out their ability to perform the best they can. And both are type of personalities we're going to talk about. We have to treat them slightly differently, the way we bring out the best in them and the way we manage them most productively. But these are 2 aspects we're going to talk about next. And pillar number 3 are the 3 keys to unlock people's potential, where we are going to transition now away from understanding others to actually creating profound shifts in the way other people perform. And that is something we're going to discuss in this pillar. It is hereby about the focus on the so-called hypos and the ones that do not perform well, to find innovative ways to really getting the most out of these people. And I will teach you 3 very profound strategies and methodologies that I have employed or deployed in my own practice that will allow you as well to really tease out the best in people. So let's now jump right into pillar 1, the 3 steps performance equation. And let's have a conversation about what the definition of performance actually is. It is defined as the action or process of carrying or accomplishing a task, function, or goal. So what does this mean? Let's unpack this right now. So the first half of the equation or of the definition is action or process. Now, what does this mean? Action or process is a linear progression towards a goal, towards something. So in other words, an action or process is defined by us having to physically do something with our mind, with our hands, or with our feet. Now, that may sound mundane, but it is important to recognize what that is, so that when we see it, we do recognize it as progress. Now, the second part of the equation stipulates carrying out or accomplishing something. And that something are obviously the action or the process that we need to carry out or accomplish. Now, we're speaking about this linear progression towards X, which is the goal, the end step, obviously. And this is important to realize, because very often, as you would know from your own life and from other people's lives, is that it's not about that we are taking action. It's about that we're taking the right action that is aligned with the goals that we're trying to accomplish. And the third part of the definition is the actual end step. It's the task, function, or goal that we are aiming towards to. And it is important to recognize this and to understand what we are aiming for, so that we recognize success when it comes around. This level of recognition and awareness about oneself, about what has helped you to perform well, is needed to help others to do the same, and really differentiates the ones that are able to perform well alone, or as somebody that has performed well, and somebody that can perform well and can teach others of how to do that. So that when you learn how to speak a second or third language, so you know as well how to teach others to do the same. So step number 1 in the 3-step performance equation is about becoming crystal clear about what's asked of you, becoming very clear about the task in hand and what you need to do to get there. And I remember years ago in my professional career, I've had tasks and projects that I was asked to execute, and it was explained to me, and I didn't quite understand exactly what was asked of me, but also I shied away from asking the question. I didn't want to look bad or kind of look weak, so to speak. So I just simply didn't ask. And I tried to learn along the way, and only through trial and error will you get to a point of accomplishing my success. And I think that we really want to open up and asking the question to create the necessary clarity around the task and the end step of the project so that we are able to perform really, really well. And I'm sure that you did the same, as you are a great performer. Now, step number 2 in the 3-step performance equation is about the skill and the ability of the staff member that you asked to execute certain tasks. And so it's not just necessary to be clear about, obviously, the way you communicate, and to be clear about if you're the one receiving the task of what has to get done. So this is just one part of the equation, but the other one is about the skill and ability, meaning that if you or your staff member doesn't have the supporting muscle to push against gravity, to then jump over a bar as an athlete to clearing the bar of, let's say, 170 meters, we're setting ourselves up for failure, right? So we want to understand clearly, well, where is the bar, how high, and do we have the supporting mental muscles, so to speak, to be able to push against whatever comes our way to make the task happen. And the third part of the 3-step performance equation is about the passion and interest that you or a staff member has for the work they do. Now, I do recommend strongly that we are thinking about going beyond money. Money is only a means to an end in the end, right? And a good people manager always looks to identify areas in their staff life and professionally that intrinsically motivates them, that goes beyond money, so that we are really able to tease out the best in other people for them to be able to step into the shoes of the best version of themselves, motivating them in ways that is highly rewarding and that contributes back to the overall KPIs and results of the organization. And pillar number 2 are the 4 ways into the hearts of others. And that simply means that we really want to make sure we understand the people we are working with, our staff. And as I mentioned before, there are usually 2 types of people. There are the high performers, the hypos, and then there are ones that are not so well performing, and we need to treat them slightly differently. Now, with hypos, they obviously are performing already really well. So what we want to do is to really make time to understand what makes them tick, to help them elevate their game and step into what they really want in their professional life, to really be a confidant, so to speak, that we can leverage off and help underperforming staff to really lift their game. In that respect, we just want to have an honest conversation on a continuous basis with those hypos that is built on trust and transparency, where you're just simply going to talk about what's important to them, what, again, they want to get out of the workforce, and you are creating a genuine win-win situation with these people that you know perform well and that you know you need to look after. Now, with the other side of the equation, the underperforming staff members that really need to lift their game, it's a very different conversation we're having, as you can imagine. Now, one initial conversation I do recommend that you're going to have with underperforming staff as a people manager is about them really understanding that you care for them, and for you to stay close to these people without judgment, to make time for them and to have some level of empathy and compassion, to really trying to get to understand why they're not performing well. What I see far too often happening is that we are, including myself, we are judging underperforming staff, not really asking the also important question of why they're underperforming. Now, judging doesn't solve the problem usually. We can go in there with a more sharper conversation or some more direct words, and that is a quick fix, but I promise it is not long-term transformational. So what we really want to understand is, why is somebody underperforming? Has it to do with their motivation at work? Has it to do with problems at home? What is the driver there? And try to get really to the root cause of the problem or the challenge that we then can address from there. It's really not about to putting a bandage on the skin, so to speak, but really about to looking at the wound that there is, to then being able to making sure that we have understood and deploying or applying the right treatment to solve the problem. So let's now talk specifically about the 4 ways into the hearts and minds of others. Now, number 1 is, we talked about this already, and you know probably already what I'm going to talk about, is really understanding what are the intrinsic motivators of your staff, of your people that you're managing. Without that, we are blind. So really make time for that. I would recommend that you schedule on a weekly basis, or at least on a fortnightly basis, a 20 to a half an hour conversation to not just talking about professional aspects of work, but also really to getting to know the person on a personal level. This goes a long way. This fills your emotional bank account with a staff member to then really have as well frank conversation, or have the permission to have frank conversations in moments when it's most needed. Now, the second way in the 4 ways into the hearts and minds of others is the aspect of us needing to identify the limitations and confidence for them to step up. Quite obviously, we want to have staff that are able to step up, that are able to raise their game, that are able to perform well. And if we have someone that is not doing this, and it hasn't to do with the intrinsic motivation, because we identified this as being clear, the next step then is to understand, okay, are there any emotional limitations? Are there any limitations in confidence for them not being able to step up? And we really clearly want to lay this out and identify. And again, we're going to do this through personal conversations. And if we see that there's a gap between the task that we're asking a staff member to perform and the actual ability to do that, we need to be able to provide the right resources to the staff member, or to upskill, or to provide some sort of support as a confidant for them to build the confidence or build the aspect of self that they're able then to step up and really fully step into the role that you want them to step into. And the third aspect is that we want to just ask a simple question, which is to identify the cultural or interpersonal match between the staff member, the company, and the team that we asked to perform well. Now, I remember years ago when I was leading the Learning and Professional Development Division for a major national medical association, I felt at least like a fish out of water. And that was pretty much in words something that my boss told me, not so much because I couldn't do the job, but just because I culturally didn't quite fit into the organization. And that is just something that we want to bear in mind. Obviously, to keep that as a sensible or a sensitive topic rather, but it's just something that we internally want to consider, to not judge, but to help and to facilitate change and positive results from happening. And number 4 is again about clarity. Now, as a people manager, it is our responsibility to clearly communicate the objectives and the task description, so to speak, to our staff. Now, it's not our responsibility to actually execute the task, but it is our responsibility to communicate clearly. Now, in pillar 3 are the 3 keys to unlock people's potential. Now, by now, we understood what made us tick and our intrinsic motivators. We also understood or stepped into the shoes of the others to understand why people perform well or why they don't. And now it's about to putting this all together, so to speak, and making sure we are stepping forward and we are allowing ourselves to teach others of what we learned and became aware about. And our objective as an effective or masterful people manager is about 2 things. It's about to leverage the high performing or the high post in our organization or in our team so that they can support us as a confidant to bring up the underperforming people, to bringing them up to speed. Now in pillar 3, where we talk about the 3 keys to unlock people's potential, we have 3 topics that I would like to share with you right now. Now, topic number 1 is very important, is that we really want to help other people to shine their brightest, so to speak, right? And to really put them in the spotlight of accomplishment and of success, to hold them held high. And so often what I see people managers do is that we want to be in the spotlight ourselves. We want to gain the celebration, and we want to be the ones that get uplifted. And of course we do, but we get uplifted by helping our team to create their best results. This is what reflects back on us. And I strongly recommend to try this out, even though it's maybe intuitive, so to speak, that we are able to really focus the spotlight onto our team to uplift them to their most potential or best potential, so that the whole team as a collaboration, including yourself, reaps the rewards. Now, point number 2 is a mix between having a strong guiding hand where it's needed, but also the necessary patience, empathy, and compassion that's needed to really guide your staff towards results. Obviously, we have to be able to do both. At times we need a strong hand and clear directions for our staff to understand what's required of them with clear boundaries of responsibilities and a clear guideline. But also at times it is needed to have the empathy and the compassion to really pause, to stand still and just to listen, and to really be able to work through the challenge rather than having only a strong guiding hand. And the people managers that I see create the best results really have both sides of the equation. And point number 3 is the willingness to really listen, observe, and learn yourself as well. I believe so many people managers really miss the point that we all are required and need to grow. And growth comes always through learning. And what we want to do is, by us listening to our staff and by us observing what works and what doesn't, and by us being willing to improve ourselves and to learn, this impresses upon our staff. They learn from us like little children learn from their parents, so to speak. And the ability or the willingness to listen, observe, and being willing to learn for oneself as a people manager is, in my opinion, absolutely crucial. And I see the reason why people succeed or not as a people manager. So that's it for that video. But before we go, I would like to ask you to really being willing to learn for yourself and to grow and to really make a difference to your teams. And what I encourage you to do is, why don't you pick one staff member that would benefit from the 4 ways into the hearts of others? Go through the process, re-listen to the video, and really go through with this particular person the process that I've laid out for you. And why don't you work with this person that you identified and commit to working with this person for a predefined period of time? It may be a week, it may be 2 weeks, it may be a month, but to really taking this person a little closer and to setting up some more one-on-one conversations and to going through the 3 keys to unlocking people's potential that I've shared with you today.